My apartment, meticulously redesigned for the geography of a wheelchair, has become a testament to a life reinvented. Every countertop is lowered, every doorway is widened, every rug is removed. It is a landscape of practicality, a constant reminder of the car accident 2 years ago that cleaved my life into a stark before and a challenging after. Before, I was a runner. I had completed the city marathon 10 times, my collection of finishers' medals a quiet testament to a discipline and endurance that I once took for granted. Now, my primary endurance challenge is navigating the city's cracked sidewalks. Today was my 55th birthday, the second one I would celebrate in this chair, and I was determined to face it with grace, not grief. A courier arrived mid-morning, bearing a sleek, expensive-looking gift box. It was from my children, Liam and Chloe. A surge of warmth and hopefulness washed over me. Our relationship had become strained since the accident, an awkward dance of their pity and my frustration. They spoke to me with a new, gentle tone, as if I were a fragile piece of glass, and they visited with a sense of dutiful obligation. I missed the easy, boisterous connection we once had. Perhaps this gift, this gesture, was a sign of the old dynamic returning, a flicker of the relationship we had before my legs gave out. I wheeled myself to the dining table and carefully opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of satin, were 2 VIP tickets and hospitality passes for the city marathon, which was in 2 weeks. For a long, silent moment, I just stared at them, the glossy paper cool beneath my fingertips. The irony was a physical blow, a punch to the gut that left me breathless. They had gifted me an intimate, front-row seat to the ghost of my former life. They were sending me back to the one place, the one event, that was a constant, painful reminder of the mobility and freedom I had so violently lost. The card, tucked neatly inside the ticket sleeve, was even worse. It was written in my daughter Chloe's cheerful, looping script. "Happy birthday, Dad! We know how much you've always loved the marathon, so we thought you'd enjoy getting out and seeing your old race from the finish line. It will be a fun day out for you. All our love, Liam and Chloe." The thoughtlessness was staggering. They didn't see the cruelty in their gift. They saw a thoughtful outing for their poor, invalid father. They had looked at me, a man who once ran 26 miles, and saw only a spectator, a person whose only connection to his former passion was to watch others live it. A wave of anger, hot and sharp, surged through me, followed by a profound, hollow sadness. I wheeled myself over to the large picture window that overlooked the city whose streets I once owned with my running shoes. They no longer saw me, their father, the man who had taught them to ride their bikes and to face their fears with courage. They saw a disability. They saw a wheelchair. And in their self-absorbed, pitying kindness, they had sent me a gift that felt less like a celebration of my birthday and more like a beautifully packaged eulogy for the man I used to be. A few days later, during my regular session with my physical therapist, Anna, I told her about the tickets. Her reaction was a satisfyingly fierce display of indignation on my behalf. "Are you kidding me?" she said, pausing the stretch she was helping me with. "That's not a gift, Thomas. That's an insult. It's like giving a recovering alcoholic a bottle of vintage scotch." Anna had been my constant companion on this difficult journey, pushing me past my physical limits and, more importantly, refusing to let me succumb to self-pity. She saw me not as a patient, but as an athlete in a different kind of race. Her anger was a comfort, but it was her next question that truly sparked something in me. "So, what are you going to do with them?" she asked, her eyes challenging me. "You can't just let them go to waste. Tickets like that, VIP passes? They're valuable. Letting them sit on your table is letting your kids' thoughtlessness win." She was right. To do nothing would be a passive acceptance of their definition of me. To simply throw them away would be an act of quiet, defeated anger. But if I couldn't use them myself, perhaps there was someone who could. An idea, audacious and deeply satisfying, began to form in my mind. I thought of Marcus Thorne. Marcus was a young, brilliant entrepreneur who ran a rival marketing firm to the one my own children had started a few years ago. I had known him professionally before my accident, a sharp, respectful young man whom I had always admired. My kids, on the other hand, despised him with a competitive passion. They saw him as their nemesis, the rival who was always landing the clients they were pitching, the constant thorn in their side. His success was a source of their unending frustration. These weren't just tickets to a race. They were passes to a corporate sponsorship tent at the finish line, a prime networking opportunity for anyone in the city's business community. For Liam and Chloe, access to that tent would have been a golden opportunity. For Marcus Thorne to be there in their stead, enjoying the hospitality they had inadvertently paid for, would be an act of quiet, poetic justice. It wasn't just about spite. It was about taking their thoughtless gift, an object of my own personal pain, and transforming it into a strategic tool, an act of agency that proved my mind was still as sharp and capable as ever. I found Marcus's number and made the call, a thrill of rebellion running through me. I explained the situation with a dry, ironic humor, leaving out the depth of my own hurt. "My kids sent me a rather unique gift," I said, "and I find myself in a position to offer a networking opportunity to a man I've always respected." He was quiet for a moment, and I could hear the gears turning in his intelligent mind. He understood the unspoken dynamics immediately. "Thomas," he said, a note of admiration in his voice, "I would be absolutely honored to attend the marathon as your guest." The plan was in motion. On the morning of the marathon, the city was electric. The air was crisp and cool, a perfect day for a race. I turned on the television, the local news providing live coverage of the event. I watched the elite runners, their bodies lean and powerful, and felt the familiar, phantom ache in my own legs, a memory of the burn and the glory. For a moment, the sadness was a heavy weight. But then I thought of the tickets, of Marcus, of the quiet drama that was about to unfold, and a grim, satisfying smile touched my lips. I was not just a spectator today, I was a strategist, a player in a different kind of game. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from my son, Liam. "Hey Dad! Hope you're having a great time at the race. The weather turned out to be perfect for it. Send us a picture from the finish line." The cheerful, oblivious tone of the message was almost comical. They were so wrapped up in their own narrative, the one where they had done a kind and thoughtful thing for their disabled father, that they couldn't imagine any other reality. I typed back a simple, "Enjoying the day," and left it at that. A few hours later, the drama I had been anticipating finally unfolded, not with a phone call, but on the very public stage of social media. A popular city business journal, which I had been monitoring all day, posted a gallery of photos from the marathon's corporate VIP tent. And there, in the third photo, was Marcus Thorne. He was not just there. He was holding a glass of champagne and deep in conversation with a man I immediately recognized, Richard Sterling, the notoriously reclusive CEO of a major tech firm, a potential client my own children had been trying to land a meeting with for over a year. The caption was effusive. "Marcus Thorne of Thorne Industries networking with industry titans at the city marathon. We hear big things are on the horizon." The phone rang less than 5 minutes later. It was my daughter, Chloe, and her voice was a sputtering, incredulous squawk of pure rage. "Dad? What is going on? Why did I just see a picture of Marcus Thorne at the marathon? My business partner just sent it to me. He's in the VIP tent, our tent, using our tickets." The satisfaction I felt was a clean, cold, and immensely powerful thing. It was the feeling of a perfectly executed plan, of a checkmate delivered from a position of perceived weakness. I let her finish her frantic, angry tirade before I responded, my voice calm and deliberate. "They were my tickets, Chloe," I said simply. "You gave them to me for my birthday. I couldn't use them, as you know. So I gave them to a friend who I thought would appreciate the opportunity." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. She had been so prepared for a fight, for an argument, but my simple, irrefutable logic had left her with nowhere to go. The quiet, satisfying click of the trap I had set had finally sprung. That evening, they appeared at my apartment door. Liam and Chloe, their faces a thunderous mixture of anger and betrayal. They didn't wait for an invitation to come in. their frustration and sense of entitlement filling my quiet, ordered space. "I cannot believe you did that." Liam started, his voice shaking with a rage I hadn't seen from him in years. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Marcus Thorne just schmoozed with Richard Sterling for 3 hours on our dime. That was our opportunity, our connection. You handed it to our biggest rival on a silver platter." Their anger was so completely focused on their own perceived loss, on the business opportunity they had been denied, that it was clear they still didn't understand the root of the problem. They saw my action as a direct, vindictive attack on their careers, a spiteful act of sabotage from a bitter old man. "How could you be so petty, Dad?" Chloe chimed in, her voice dripping with accusation. "To use your birthday gift to actively hurt your own children? It was a mean, cruel thing to do." The hypocrisy of her statement, of her accusing me of cruelty, was almost breathtaking. It was then that the dam of my own carefully controlled calm finally broke. But my anger was not hot and loud. It was cold, quiet, and heavy with the weight of 2 years of accumulated pain. "Hurt you?" I said, my voice low and steady, forcing them to fall silent. "Let me tell you about being hurt. I was hurt when my own children sent me a ticket to a marathon I can no longer run, a cruel reminder of a life I can no longer live. I was hurt when you looked at me and saw not your father, but a disabled man who needed a fun day out. You didn't see me. You saw a wheelchair. You saw a problem to be managed with a pitying, thoughtless gesture." I looked from my son's stunned face to my daughter's. "You accused me of not thinking about you. But when did you last think about me? Truly think about my life, my reality? You used my past to insult my present. I simply repurposed your insult. I gave your thoughtless gift to someone who would actually see its value. The fact that it benefited him and not you is a consequence of your own actions, not mine. The business opportunity was never yours to begin with. It was mine. A gift, remember?" For the first time since the accident, they were speechless. My words, a simple, unvarnished statement of my own reality, had finally pierced through their self-absorbed bubble. They were forced to confront the profound thoughtlessness of their actions, to see their kind gesture for the insult it truly was. They looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, I think they finally saw me, their father, a man of pride and agency, not an object of their pity. They left my apartment not with the fury they had arrived with, but with the quiet, uncomfortable dawning of a long overdue shame. In the wake of that confrontation, something inside me shifted. The act of turning their insult into my own triumph, of taking control of a situation where I was meant to be a passive victim, was incredibly empowering. The quiet bitterness that had been my constant companion since the accident began to recede, replaced by a new, unfamiliar sense of agency. I had been so focused on the things I could no longer do, on the life I had lost. But my little act of strategic revenge had reminded me that my mind, my will, and my spirit were as strong and capable as they had ever been. A new, audacious idea began to take root, an idea sparked by the very event that had caused so much pain. I couldn't run the marathon. But what if I could still cross that finish line? I spoke to Anna, my physical therapist, during our next session. "I want to do it," I said, a resolve in my voice that surprised even myself. "Next year. The city marathon. I want to compete in the wheelchair division." Anna's face broke into a wide, brilliant smile. She had been trying to get me to find a new competitive outlet for months. "Now you're talking, Thomas," she said. "That's a real race. That's a real goal." And so, my new race began. The obstacle was immense, far greater than I had anticipated. The training was a grueling, daily battle. It required a different kind of strength, a powerful upper body and a core of steel that I did not possess. There were days of frustration, when my muscles screamed in protest, when the sheer, exhausting effort of pushing myself up a slight incline felt insurmountable. There were moments of doubt, when the memory of the effortless freedom of running taunted me, making this new, difficult reality feel like a poor substitute. But with Anna's expert guidance and relentless encouragement, I persisted. My supporting character in this journey was not just a therapist, she was my coach, my drill sergeant, and my biggest cheerleader. She designed a rigorous training program, a combination of strength training and long, arduous pushes through the city's parks and bike paths. I was reclaiming the streets of the city, not as a former runner, but as a new kind of athlete, a competitor in a different, but no less valid arena. The pain in my shoulders and arms was a good pain, an honest pain, the feeling of a body being pushed to its limits in the pursuit of a goal. My relationship with my children during this time was defined by a strained and distant silence. They didn't call. I didn't reach out. But it was different now. I was no longer sitting by the phone, waiting for their validation, for their apology. My focus had shifted inward. I was on my own track now, both literally and figuratively. My personal growth was no longer dependent on their recognition of my worth. I was too busy building that worth myself, one painful, powerful push at a time, my eyes fixed on a new finish line that was entirely my own. Months of grueling training passed, the seasons changing around me as I pushed myself through the city's parks. My body transformed, my arms and shoulders developing a sinewy strength I never knew I had. I was a common sight on the park's main loop, a man in a racing wheelchair, his face set with a grim determination. The awkward silence from my children continued, a quiet, unresolved chord in the background of my new, focused life. I had made my peace with it, assuming our relationship would be this thing of distant, polite formality for the foreseeable future. Then one Saturday morning, as I was struggling through a particularly difficult long-distance push, a figure began to run alongside me. It was my son, Liam. He was dressed in running gear, his breathing steady, his pace matching mine. He didn't say anything at first. He just ran. There was no grand apology, no dramatic speech. There was only the shared rhythm of his feet hitting the pavement, and my hands pushing the wheels, a silent, coordinated effort. It was an apology offered not in words, but in sweat and solidarity. This became our new routine. 3 times a week, Liam would meet me at the park and act as my pacer, my training partner. We rarely spoke of the marathon tickets or the fight. Instead, we talked about my training, about his work, about the simple, everyday things that fathers and sons are supposed to talk about. He was no longer treating me like a fragile invalid. He was treating me like an athlete, a teammate. He was showing up, not out of a sense of guilty obligation, but out of a newfound, genuine respect for the new race I was running. A few weeks later, Chloe got involved. She couldn't run with us, but she found her own way to contribute, a way that utilized her own unique skills. She used her marketing expertise to secure a sponsorship for me from a local sporting goods store, getting me a state-of-the-art racing wheelchair that was lighter and faster than my old training model. She researched nutrition plans and hydration strategies, creating detailed spreadsheets to help me optimize my performance. She was using her business acumen, the very thing that had been the source of our conflict, as a tool to support me. My children were finally learning to be involved in my actual life, not the one they had imagined for me. They were atoning for their past thoughtlessness not with empty words, but with consistent, meaningful action. They were seeing me again, not as a symbol of what I had lost, but as the man I was right now, their father, a competitor, a man who had found a new way to race. The process of forgiveness was happening not in a single conversation, but over miles of shared road, in the quiet, unspoken language of a family learning to find its way back to each other. The morning of the city marathon arrived, exactly 1 year after I had received those fateful tickets. The air was electric with the same crisp, cool energy, but this time, I was not a spectator. I was at the starting line, my heart a frantic, joyful drum against my ribs. I was surrounded by 100 other athletes in racing wheelchairs, a community of grit and resilience I was now proud to be a part of. My kids, Liam and Chloe, were there, my official support crew, their faces a mixture of nerves and immense pride. The starting gun fired, and I was off, my arms pumping, my new chair flying over the pavement. The race was the most difficult and exhilarating thing I had ever done. The 26 miles were a brutal, beautiful tour of the city I loved. I pushed through the pain, through the exhaustion, my children's cheers at various points along the course a constant source of fuel. I saw the city not as a landscape of my past limitations, but as a course I was actively conquering, my powerful new arms propelling me forward. This was not a substitute for running, it was its own unique, glorious challenge, a testament to the incredible adaptability of the human spirit. As I made the final turn into the park, my muscles screaming, my lungs burning, I saw the finish line in the distance. And standing there, beside my children, was a familiar face. It was Marcus Thorne. He was holding a large sign that read, "Go Thomas!" He had become a friend over the past year, a sponsor of my racing chair, and a quiet supporter of my journey. He caught my eye and gave me a thumbs up, a final, ironic, and beautiful closing of the circle that had begun with his name on a VIP guest list. Crossing that finish line was a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph. I had done it. My time was not important. What was important was that I had faced the ghost of my past and created a new, powerful reality for my future. My children rushed to me, their faces wet with tears, their hugs conveying everything that words could not. In their eyes I saw not pity, but an awe-filled respect. I was no longer the man in the wheelchair. I was their father, the marathoner. Sometimes, the most thoughtless insult can become the catalyst for our most profound transformation. We've all been underestimated, been put in a box, or been defined by our limitations instead of our potential. What was the moment that made you decide to break out of the box that someone else had put you in? What was your own personal finish line? Share your story of resilience in the comments below. Let's celebrate the moments we decided to stop being spectators in our own lives and started our own race. If this story inspired you, subscribe for more, and share it with anyone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to find a new way to win.